Trust News Center. This is the News Hour.
On News Hour tonight, Nigeria's inflation rises to 21.91% amid cash scarcity. Traders blame cashless policy. INEC begins distribution of electoral materials for governorship state assembly polls. Troops of Multinational Joint Task Force apprehend 900 family members and collaborators of Boko Haram fighters. And on the foreign scene, Malawi declares state of disaster as death toll from Cyclone Freddy hits over 200. Hello and welcome to News Hour on Trust TV. I'm Darshan Hussaina Usman. The news in detail. The National Bureau of Statistics has disclosed that Nigeria's inflation figure has risen to 21.91% in the month of February. In a report on Wednesday, the NBS stated that the headline inflation rate increased by 0.09 basis points when compared to January 2023 headline inflation rate, which was 21.82%. Similarly, on a year-on-year basis, the headline inflation rate was 6.21% points higher compared to the rate recorded in February 2022, which was 15.70%. It said items that contributed to the increase are bread and cereal, representing 21.67%, actual and imputed rents, 7.74%, potatoes, yam and other tubers, 6.06%, vegetable, 5.44%, and meat, 4.78%. Meanwhile, traders and their customers at Utako Market in Abuja say the latest rise in inflation in the country is reflective of the hardship people are facing owing to the cashless policy imposed. They speak to Noel Sampson.
Sellers and buyers at Utako Market blame the rise in inflation on cash crunch occasioned by the cashless policy of the Central Bank of Nigeria.
Things are actually going up day by day in terms of prices. So I think government need to do something about this, and this issue of a cash policy and the rest of it is really affecting us.
We will come market and since in the morning we will not see even 200 naira cash. Common money to buying of food is suffering to us.
And business is not moving, nothing is moving. If you are coming to the market in the morning and you not come along with your transport fare, you will remain in the market. The customers that are coming to buy, their number has reduced because of the cashless policy now. They are no more coming and the scarcity of money.
Because I cannot meet the demand of my family anymore because of the inflation. Not that I'm not well to do, not that I cannot feed them, but the inflation has affected everything negatively on my side. I don't know whether people are finding it easy, but as for me, as a customer, I'm not finding it easy any longer. It is hard for me to feed my family 3 times a day now. It's very difficult.
No cash. So we talk about transfer, POS. The service is not good because the transfer is not going, the network is bad. And then the POS of a thing, they will charge you a lot of money in order for you to transfer money. So very, very bad.
The consensus among them is that government's policies must be people-oriented and it should avoid implementing policy that brings about hardship to the governed. Noel Sampson, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Dr. Isa Abdullahi, a lecturer of Economics and Development Department, Federal University, Kashere, Gombe State, is joining us to discuss the latest inflation figure. Good evening and thank you for joining us on News Hour, Doctor.
Yeah, good evening. Nice to be with you.
All right, so Nigeria's inflation has risen to 21.91% in February, when the country, was battling Naira crunch. Now, can we safely say that, without argument, that this particular policy is invalidated?
Well, we can say that when we look at it at invalidation, for instance, when we reduce it to the inflation, we can say that there is a problem with the implementation and the design of the policy, because we are supposed to get a lower inflation rate, and now we are having a higher inflation rate. And this is as a result of a lot of losses that are coming up from agricultural sectors, closure of some production entities, and then problems in trying to make transaction, and what experts also call the deceleration of the economy. Instead of the economy to accelerate, then it's decelerating. So we are having a problem of low money in circulation, low transaction of businesses due to failure of network in most cases. So the people cannot make transactions in adequate. In some places, in local places, you hear information that people are resorting back to trade by barter because all the systems for making payments have been failing. You cannot have network. You go to the banks with no cash, and then you go to the POS, you don't get cash. You make transfers, it's very difficult to get the transfer. Then how can you make payments for goods and services? So if companies are making losses, businesses are making losses, agricultural producers are making losses, when you go to the market, you don't have customers, then definitely there are closure of companies, there are a reduction, retrenchment of workers or redundancy of workers, then definitely prices in the long run will be going up. And this is exactly what we're facing.
All right, so now what are the economic implications of high inflation and, high cost of living into the Nigerian economy?
Well, the major implication is high cost of living results into, low standard of living. Low standard of living in the sense that most especially when that comes from the cost sector of the economy like the one we are having in Nigeria. If you have a high cost of living, it means that if it's a salary earner who has maybe 30 or 40,000 naira as a fixed salary and prices of goods and services keep on going up, when he used to buy something at the rate of 40 naira, for instance, now is 80 naira, it doubles, the amount. Then for him to be at his original position, he needs to have 80,000 naira as his monthly take-up. But if he doesn't have an increase of a couple, then it means he's deepening into more poverty line. He's going into more below poverty line. So you have a lot of poor people in the economy. And then if you still have continuous inflation, is the closure of companies, you have problems of unemployment will be keeping up, and then the boomeranging effect, now you have more criminalities and crime in the economy.
Okay, so now, in spite of all this, how can the Nigerian, economy be sustainable, when you talk about the foreseeable future?
Well, for us to have a foreseeable future, I like the cashless policy because we have to go the global way. It's very simple to go the global way, but our problem is we lack the infrastructure and we have not given it enough time to prepare. We need to prepare very well because we have a large number of people who are highly uneducated in the villages, so they cannot make transactions online. You need to make preparation for that number of people. And there are a lot of communities in Nigeria that do not even have banks. More than half of the Nigerian communities don't even have banks, and more than half of Nigerians don't even have bank accounts. So you need to get these people integrated into the formal sector, the official sector. Therefore, you can control them, you can regulate them, you can give them all the policies, and then it will be smoothly implemented. Our network, our infrastructure is too local, I can say, is too poor, and then is inadequate. So we need to expand the network. For instance, now, if assuming our network is that of the satellite, then it's faster, it's sharper. You can make transactions within short time. That even if you are into ditch, you can make the transfer. You can make all your transactions online. But now the kind of network we are having in Nigeria, that's too poor for us. The infrastructure, we are not yet ready for that.
All right, well, thank you so much for taking time out to discuss on this issue with us. Dr. Isa Abdullahi, Lecturer of Economics and Development Department, Federal University, Kashere, Gombe State. Thank you so much, sir.
No, thank you very much. Nice.
All right, so let's move on to more stories. Mixed reactions continue to greet the central bank's directive to money deposit banks on old Naira notes, as residents of Katsina say the directive came very late and the policy has ruined their businesses and inflicted hardship on the ordinary citizens. Abdullahi Amadi reports.
People waited anxiously for the reintroduction of the old notes into the economy for over 10 days. After the Supreme Court judgment of Friday, March 3rd, nothing substantial changed. However, the central bank's statement on legal status of the old Naira note brought relief to many. But some Katsina residents said the old Naira notes are still not available in the banks despite sufferings in the last couple of days.
Given that directives is better than none, we can at least utilize the one we have available, that's the old Naira notes, to do our financial transaction. Because if you want to buy something that you cannot buy with a transfer or using ATM card, so you have to give them cash. That's why it is necessary for you to get the cash.
Wannan umarnin yana kasancewa wani lokaci ta kada warwara.
This policy has ruined our businesses. As you can see, most of us are idle. Nothing is moving. All of us here are willing to accept the old Naira notes. But where did you see it? Many of us went to the banks this morning, but the issue of scarcity remains the same, almost 48 hours after the Apex Bank directives.
Za a ce gwamnatin tarayya ta ce kaza, amma ka zo banki ba za su yi accepting da wannan abin da gwamnatin tarayya ta ce ba.
Some, however, welcome the reintroduction of the old Naira, as according to them, it will ease the difficulties being faced by Nigerians.
I don't receive any old Naira note today. Yes, we can accept it. As a law-abiding citizen, I must accept the court order. The central bank has disobeyed first, but now it accepts. As an independent marketer, I can accept. If our customers give us an old Naira note, I can accept it.
Majority of POS operators lack the cash to give to their customers, forcing many to close shop. What remains to be seen is whether in the coming days the banknotes would be available to restore hope and the confidence of Nigerians. Abdullahi Ismayamadi, Trust Television News, Katsina.
Following the CBN's directive on Monday that the old 500 and 1,000 Naira notes remain legal tender until the 31st of December 2023, in line with the Supreme Court order of March 3rd, issues of availability and acceptability of the notes remain major concerns among Nigerians. Zainab Araye in this report takes a look at how Nigerians and businesses are dealing with these issues since the restoration of the notes by the CBN. The report.
Although many welcome the CBN's reintroduction of the old notes as a signal of an end to the hardship that followed the policy, things seem not to be going that way, as many residents in Abuja continue to share tales of commercial drivers not accepting the notes.
By yesterday, I was surprised to discover that even though the banks said they have started releasing the old notes out, but at the same time they are also complaining that they don't have enough of those old notes in stock. So when we begin to ask questions that even after the directives from the so-called CBN, why are the banks still saying they don't have the funds?
Cashless policy, it will help Nigerians a lot. Why? 419, Boko Haram of a thing, and these kidnappers, they wouldn't have their days. All this issue of corruption will come down drastically. Are you with me? Let us embrace it.
I accept it because if a CBN can still come and tell us to collect it back, then we can accept it now. Who are we to not to accept it?
While passengers lamented the actions of the drivers on their part say their hesitation to accept the old Naira notes is a manifestation of the fear of the unknown.
As a business owner, I could accept, but the problem we have is that if bank will collect the money from us when we want to go and deposit the money inside the bank, that is the problem we are having. I went to the bank today and they told me that if you're collecting this old note, don't bring it back. GT Bank. So that is the fear we business owner we have. If we are to collect now, we say, okay, fine, we've collected, let's go and put the money inside the bank. Our fear is if we get to the bank, will they collect it?
The issue here is that we've not even seen the money. You go to a bank, they'll tell you no cash, no cash, no cash. Unlike today, I spent about 3 hours in the bank, but yet I couldn't find anything. I'm pleading that the government should please try and consider us, because the harsh economy is really affecting us. because many people have died. Some are even sleeping hungry. Unlike me, 3 days ago, I couldn't come to work because of money.
Nigerians across board are appealing to the federal government to make cash available as vendors and other traders continue to decry the non-availability of both the new and old currency notes. Zainab Karaye, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Online payment platforms provide alternative financial services to Nigerians, especially with the introduction of the Central Bank of Nigeria's cashless and naira redesign policy. Now, this is, however, at a great risk of getting debit or credit alerts, but without actual payment. In this report, Yusuf Akogu speaks to Nigerians who resort to alternative means of making or receiving payments.
The Central Bank of Nigeria cashless policy almost grounded the economy to a halt as many businesses were forced to close for lack of cash for transactions. This business owner says they rely largely on alternative payment platforms. They, however, say network issue has always been a challenge.
My market don't go down. Before, by last year, so I feel do what I know even expect. We have the bag before. I know even feel anything. Sure, you understand? And now, before I know they owe, now because of this transaction of 18, the beginning, now I can't even open my eye. Anything where I say I go carry, I go they monitor. You never pay or transfer. The people where they get fear of God, if he bounce back, they will tell me, sir, favor, this thing don't bounce back. Oh, she understand? It's not that easy.
For me, I think this is Nigeria. I'm not surprised at all. And it actually came, and I think we've conquered it already now.
Others believe that the low broadband penetration in Nigeria is responsible for poor internet services being recorded by commercial banks and others. Amidst all these challenges, some Nigerians found other payment platforms useful to carry out their transactions.
Actually, of the OPay, another mean, in fact, I would say they try in the sense that you can access them better than the bank.
There's no how they would do the same work a bank that the bank does. They can't even do the same work. But you know, for you to have a small transaction and all that, I think it helps. But they cannot do the work of a banking job actually, because I often noticed that some of them they have started using ATM now, but they can still not do the same work as bank.
Financial analyst Mukhtar Mohammed said the Central Bank of Nigeria's action only revealed that the Apex Bank lacked the understanding of the policy it conceived ab initio. According to him, CBN should have learned from the United Kingdom's example.
We've seen untold hardship and loss of productivity among Nigerians by virtue of this policy. It's very, very unfortunate that a good policy that was not well thought out and was done for political reasons. And that is why we are suffering the way we are suffering. We've not seen the end, the negativity of this policy until we begin to get the data from the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, NBS.
With the old Naira note now legal tender until 31st December 2023, Nigerians hope that the Central Bank of Nigeria will print more of the new note to prevent a repeat of the current suffering. Yusuf Akogu, Trust Television News, Abuja.
The Independent National Electoral Commission has urged prospective voters in Bauchi State to remain focused as challenges experienced during the presidential elections will not be repeated. The state resident electoral commissioner, Muhammad Bulama, stated this during the distribution of sensitive materials for the governorship and state assemblies elections held at the Central Bank branch in Bauchi. Trust TV's Adamu Imam completes the report.
The state INEC boss, who briefed journalists shortly after the distribution of sensitive materials to local government areas in the presence of agents of political parties as well as security personnel, assured of adequate preparation for the governorship and state assemblies election in the state.
That's how we decided to begin today, so that we have today, Wednesday, we have Thursday for EOS, that's electoral officers, to go and check, cross-check and check again to see if there is any shortfall. If there is any, we have enough time to inform the headquarters and the supply. That's why we decided to do it today.
During the distribution exercise, representatives of some political parties welcomed the early distribution of the materials. Others recalled some issues that hampered the smooth execution of the exercise, promised to abide by the rules of electioneering process.
We have the confidence that we play as expected, and we all know that it's obvious this distribution is normally come from the CBN, and we doubt if there is any rancor around this process. Our prayer is all the process will be peaceful.
The content inside, so far so good. As you can see now, we are just waiting. They are following local government budget. As soon as they surrender it to us, we are going to reconfirm and then take it to our respective local government. All the party representatives and election observers who are sent here to monitor this activity. INEC materials that will be distributed to various local governments. We are trying to see how we can sort it out and find out that what was given, it is what is exactly on the ground. We are sure that normally we don't get problem here, but the major problem we get is when the materials are dispatched from this place down to the local areas.
In one ward, we have at least almost 90 polling units. How could you give that material? It's about half of one among our local governments. If to say that you carry Nasarawa, Kaswa, Katago local government, the total polling unit there is about 50% of Jama'ara local government. And you have 11 wards. It is not easy for you to distribute it like that, because most of the officials of PSO, they are working this time. They have never been this one. This is the first time they have done it.
The stakeholders also appealed to electorates to conduct themselves peacefully to ensure that the exercise truly reflects the wishes of the people. Ademi Imam, Trust TV News, Bauchi.
Thank you, Adamu, for that report. Now, the Independent National Electoral Commission has begun distribution of sensitive materials ahead of the upcoming March 18 governorship and State House of Assembly elections in Lagos State. The report.
Distribution of election material begins at the Central Bank of Nigeria head office in Marina, Lagos Island. Presence of armed security operatives were visible as the sensitive materials were being deployed. The Lagos State INEC Resident Electoral Commissioner Olusegun Agbaje explained that the late arrival of materials at the polling units that happened on the February 25th presidential election will not happen during the Saturday's election.
We have appealed to our security agencies. We had meeting of ICS last weekend because when our people were going, particularly in Etiosa, they were driven back by many hoodlums from here and there, and then because of that, they could not get to their stations on time. But this time around, the Commissioner of Police has assured me, in fact, we spoke yesterday evening, and he assured that the situation will be better this time around. It is when INEC fails to deploy that you can call it a problem. But if you deploy but you are not allowed to get to where we are going, or they got there and they are not allowed to do their work, driven out of the place, that is not an INEC's problem. And that is why we are synergizing with security agents, because INEC has its own roles that has been carved out. But the other things outside the area to make sure do a job well, which is that of securing the environment. And I've told you that last Wednesday, the ICS met in the state to review what happened and to also look at the way going forward. And we have reviewed everything, and the security agencies have assured us, the military, the police, immigration, civil defense, all of them were there, and they all assured us that this time around, the situation will be better. And we are very hopeful.
Also, the Assistant Commissioner of Police Area A Command of Lagos Island, Sagir Ismail, speaks on the security arrangement for the exercise.
In any exercise like this, the police has a responsibility to be around, oversee the sharing and distribution of the sensitive materials. It is a standard that these sensitive materials you are seeing cannot be shared without police presence. So we're here to ensure that it's shared transparently and in the presence of all the party agents and other stakeholders.
Agbaje, however, assured that this time around the beavers will work perfectly well and results will be uploaded from the polling unit.
In the same vein, INEC has distributed sensitive materials to the 25 local government areas of Niger State for the Saturday governorship and House of Assembly elections. Addressing the media during the distribution at the Mina branch of the Central Bank of Nigeria, the resident electoral commissioner in the state, Ahmed Yusha'u Garki, said 10,940 bimodal voter accreditation systems allotted to the state have been reconfigured and certified for use for the polls. The report.
He said the issue of late arrival of electoral materials and officials in some local governments during the presidential and National Assembly elections was largely due to insecurity in the affected local governments, saying that security agencies in the state had already given assurance to guard electoral officials and materials in the coming gubernatorial and State House of Assembly elections. Garki revealed that an electoral official who was found wanting in Suleja local government during the presidential and National Assembly elections is still in police custody, warning that any staff of the commission or ad hoc staff who partake in any form of electoral malpractice will be made to face the law. He charges the electorate and party supporters to conduct themselves peacefully during the forthcoming governorship elections.
We have completed all the 1,940. We found that we have some temporary that the election will not take place. So we have considered them and we do what they call quality assurance test. That was yesterday. And we have confirmed that they are up on top of the situation. Even though we were able to stem some, there was not much trade. And with regards to lateness, we've identified some certain areas which I've told you that we have not them and we are going to address that issue. By the grace of God, Saturday you see different.
Thank you, sir. The state's chairman of the Inter-Party Advisory Council, Isa Mohammed Bello, charged the commission on close monitoring of its staff to allow free, fair and credible elections. The representative of the People's Democratic Party, Sani Idris Kutigi, wants the commission to ensure that the displaced persons due to insecurity have the opportunity to participate in the election, alleging that many of the displaced persons in Churoro, Munya, Mariga, Magama and Rafi local government areas were not able to vote during the presidential and National Assembly elections in the state.
Ahead of the governorship and House of Assembly elections rescheduled for March 18, the Independent National Electoral Commission and agents of political parties have inspected sensitive materials sent to Benue State. Jimmy Adzande witnessed the inspection exercise in Makurdi, the state capital, and filed in this report.
In line with the Electoral Act 2022 as amended, INEC Wednesday led political parties to inspect the materials for the March 18 polls in the state. The electoral umpire said the materials are safe and ready for distribution to the 23 local government areas of the state.
Because parties constitute the institutional foundation of democracy. So we want to manifest that tradition of transparency by bringing media people and political parties together so that you can see that the ballot papers for the governorship election already batched on the basis of local governments and the ballot paper for state constituency election, they are also here along with their result sheets.
On its part, the Central Bank of Nigeria Makurdi office said the materials were kept with premium security and will leave the Epes Bank's premises sealed and delivered.
As we are given, we transported them here, handled some form of logistics, and we're handing them over. We don't even know what is inside. All we have is a manifest, and that's what we're handing over.
Representatives of the political parties who went round to inspect the materials said they are convinced that the materials were not compromised.
The Electoral Commissioner has made his comment, and to the best of my knowledge, what I've seen here is very transparent, and I've taken us all to the 23 local government areas in respect of the ballot papers for the governorship and then the 32 state constituencies across the state. We have seen the consignment, they are complete, the process is transparent, and by the grace of God, I think we are going to have one of the most peaceful elections on Saturday.
We have been taken around to inspect them. We are largely convinced that all the materials are securely tied together. They have been wrapped securely. We have a sense of convincing that they are safe, they will not be tampered with. And we have also been told by INEC senior person who's in charge of operations that they have already sorted our result sheets and we are ready for distribution.
INEC confirmed that the beavers have been reconfigured for the exercise, which has generated anxiety among political actors and their supporters in Benue State.
Now, away from distribution of electoral materials, the PDP and its presidential candidate, Atiku Abubakar, have withdrawn an application seeking to compel the Independent National Electoral Commission to allow their agents to participate in the process of sorting out ballot papers that were used for the February 25th presidential election. Both the PDP and Atiku, who are separately challenging the outcome of the election that was declared in favor of Bola Tinubu, candidate of the ruling All Progressives Congress, told the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal sitting at the Court of Appeal in Abuja that they have deemed it fit to discontinue the application. Counsel for Atiku, Joe Kiari Gadzama, SAN, told the court that he filed a notice of discontinuance when the motion ex parte was called on Wednesday. Justice Joseph Ike-led three-member panel therefore struck out the application. The application was filed because of challenges and administrative bottlenecks PDP and Atiku encountered at the INEC office when they wanted access to the election materials as granted by the court. INEC has reportedly met with the Atiku and the PDP legal team where all the grey areas were sorted out with a pledge to allow agents to observe the process of sorting out some of the electoral materials. On security, the Multinational Joint Task Force says its troops of Sectors 3 and 4 have apprehended more than 900 suspected family members and collaborators of Boko Haram ISWAP fighters. A statement on Wednesday by MNJTF's Chief Military Public Information Officer in Jamena, Chad, Lieutenant Colonel Kamaruddin Adegoke, said that the infighting by the Boko Haram and ISWAP terrorist groups, as well as the bombardment of the MNJTF and other national operations, had triggered their movement. Adegoke said that there had been continuous movements of large bodies of people from the Sambisa forests to the Lake Chad Basin within the last 1 month. The statement said troops on night patrol along Ngagam-Delori axis also rescued 3 women alongside their 4 children who were fleeing from the infighting between the Boko Haram and ISWAP in Sambisa forest. Another 70 terrorists' family members, comprising 43 women and 30 children, were intercepted by the troops. He said this followed the arrest of 2 suspected Boko Haram terrorist logistics suppliers and their collaborators, Muhammad Sabo and Sedikit Nladi, while trying to exit Munguno town to the Tumbuns to link up with the terrorists. You're still watching News Hour on Trust TV. Coming up after the break, 11 women seeking to occupy government houses. Stay with us.
That's great. It's good to see you.
Welcome back and thanks for staying with us on News Hour on Trust TV. Here's a recap of our major stories. You heard that Nigeria's inflation rises to 21.91% amid cash scarcity. Traders blame cashless policy. You also heard that INEC begins distribution of electoral materials for governorship state assembly polls. Moving on, the federal government says the 2023 population and housing census, earlier scheduled for March 29, has been shifted to May as a result of the rescheduling of the governorship polls to March 18. Minister of Information, Lai Mohammed, revealed this on Wednesday while briefing newsmen at State House after the weekly meeting of the Federal Executive Council. The minister is also assuring Nigerians that the second Niger Bridge will be inaugurated before the end of the lifespan of the present administration, which is why the cabinet approved the contract for the completion of feeder roads to the bridge. Kehinde Amodu reports.
2.8 billion naira has been approved for the National Population Commission to procure some software to be used for the conduct of the census. The NPC has consistently assured Nigerians that the headcount will be error-free because it will be conducted digitally. However, the conduct of the census has been moved to May due to the rescheduling of the governorship polls. One thing the administration is determined will not suffer delay is the completion of the second Niger Bridge.
We can tell you that the Niger Bridge itself is substantially, concluded. The road, the contract was awarded today, which work has started even before now. It's actually to connect the Asaba Benin end to the second Niger, the new second Niger Bridge.
Speaking of feeder roads, the council also focused on the Suleja-Mina dual carriageway on Wednesday, approving an additional 25 billion naira to the original contract sum of the road, which was 9 billion naira.
The contract itself today is about 84% physically completed. But the reason why we have to ask, why the minister had to ask for a revised estimate, augmentation, is because when the road was constructed, it was not anticipated that it would become the major, source of transportation for petroleum products. If I'm correct, I think Suleja today has probably the biggest petroleum, depot in Nigeria.
Meanwhile, Minister of State for National Planning and Budget, Clem Agba, says he cannot confirm if the 2022 budget will be fully funded, despite the extension of its implementation to March this year.
As at December, we were already about 80% in terms of fund releases. We are making further releases this week to the relevant MDAs, just for the purposes of payment. Like some of the work are already going on. It's just to meet up with certificates. I cannot say specifically for sure if, just like 2021, where we were able to do 100% capital releases, if we would be able to do so until when we meet on Thursday.
The minister is also not forthcoming on the removal of subsidy, as he says meetings are being convened to discuss the issue. From State House, Abuja, Kehinde Amodu, Trust TV News.
Police in Niger State have arrested 44 suspected hoodlums in connection with the attacks and persistent breach of peace in Minna, the Niger State capital. The State Command's Public Relations Officer, DSP Wasiu Abiodun, said that the suspects were found with dangerous weapons and will be made to face charges for capital offences without bail condition. The report.
While people in rural communities in the state had continued to battle with attacks by bandits, residents of Minna, the state capital, are battling with attacks by the rival thug groups over the years. Residents said the activities of the hoodlums, locally known as Sara Suka, have continued even as they attack innocent people, break into shops, and steal each time they operate. On Tuesday, the Niger State Police Command's Public Relations Officer, DSP Wasiu Abiodun, announced in a statement that 44 persons were arrested in connection with the attacks and were found in possession of dangerous weapons. He said some of the dangerous weapons recovered from the suspect include 11 cutlasses, 4 scissors, 5 knives, 4 swords, 1 garrote, 5 sticks, 8 mobile phones, 3 shisha pipes, a big saw, scale, an iron bar, a bottle containing illicit drugs, lighter, screwdriver, bunch of keys and ATM cards. Some residents told Trust TV News that they had been having sleepless nights for the past weeks because of the activities of hoodlums who operated day and night.
There are some boys come enter this our area in the night, two days. We didn't sleep in this area. There's one woman run because of those boys. Further is daughter, as the son went there for his hand, fall down with the woman, which were not expected. Those people, the ADC and the vigilante people, they are the people that come help us that very day. Otherwise, we are not sleeping here peacefully that very day.
Just about last week, mayhem was unleashed in our environment by these youths in the night. A lot of rival clashes from youths from one area fighting another area. You know, this area has been very peaceful before now. It's very unfortunate that these children can be allowed to cause mayhem in the community without any important action being taken against them. So it's very unfortunate, sir. But we are using this opportunity to call on the parents to prevail on their words so that they stop this kind of activity. Because it's like they are taking laws into their hands. And definitely the parents could not be unaware of this kind of development. It's very unfortunate because they are disturbing the peace of the environment.
Contesting elections outcomes in Nigeria often leads to prolonged litigation and post-election violence as witnessed in the past. In this report, Trust TV's Shafiu Suleiman takes a look at historical antecedents and factors preventing politicians from accepting electoral defeat in good faith during every election cycle.
A trace of Nigeria's electoral journey will reveal that election dispute started with the post-independence election of 1964, which was alleged to have been rigged in favor of one of the major political parties. The end result was widespread violence in the western part of the country that eventually led to a declaration of state of emergency, trial and sentence of the premier of the region, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, for alleged treasonable felony. Though Nigeria witnessed a shift in the handling of post-election outcome of 1979, with a focus on electoral litigation against the victory of the then National Party of Nigeria (NPN, electoral outcomes of the 2003, 2007 and 2011 were all contested by the defeated political parties in the election.
Always been contested. So people contest the first election, the first independence election, up to the 1979 election, up to the 1983. No. So it's like we are here.
The only election that stands out is that of the 2015, where the incumbent President Goodluck Jonathan, who lost to the candidate of the major opposition APC, Muhammadu Buhari, voluntarily conceded defeat and congratulated the winner, thereby ruling out possibility of challenging the outcome of the exercise. Even with signing of series of accords by presidential candidates prior to recent elections, accepting the outcome of the polls becomes extremely difficult. What could have been responsible for this?
As you know, did not meet the minimum standard expected of a free, transparent, credible, fair election. And I assure you that good people of Nigeria that will explore all legal and peaceful action to reclaim our mandate.
It was indeed a rape of democracy, and as such must be challenged.
So it's a general thing. They don't like accepting defeat. No matter how the result, how credible the process is.
What are the available windows for the aggrieved parties to ventilate their disagreement with the election outcome?
Previous elections, we've seen people, they never accept the elections, but they have the recourse to the law. So if you are not okay with the outcome of the elections, they are free and fine, and it's okay to actually approach the law court.
Though political observers are of the view that there is no perfect election anywhere in the world, Continuous improvement in the electoral process through genuine reforms are imperative in building confidence of the electorate in the nation's electoral space. Shafiu Suleiman, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Ahead of the Saturday governorship and state assembly elections, 11 female governorship candidates are in the race to occupy Government House in northern Nigeria. Dana Daniel Zagi takes a look at the chances of female candidates in the election.
The sociocultural barriers for women in politics, especially in northern Nigeria, seems to be melting as female governorship candidates in the region are out to contest in the March 18th elections. Aisha Abubakar Binani is one of the popular female politicians in Nigeria and the only female gubernatorial candidate of the leading All Progressives Congress in Adamawa State. The only female senator from the north in the 9th Assembly has defied many odds to emerge governorship candidate of the leading political party in Nigeria. The crowd at her outings speak hope to the efforts of gender activists for women inclusion in governance. Residents of Adamawa State speak about her female candidature and chances at the polls.
I'm not supporting her because we are in the same gender. I'm supporting her because she has the passion. She can do more than we think.
Adama is not ready for a female governor. Why? Because we Africa, we don't believe that women rule over men. And therefore, Nigeria will not give a female at this time.
Aisha Binani is one among 11 female governorship candidates in northern Nigeria contesting for the apex office in their various states. Lamenting previous relegations of women, Rosalind Cheyenge, Benue State female governorship candidate under the platform of the Action Democratic Party, ADP, tells Trust TV that women are out to reclaim their mandate and contribute their quota to governance.
I discovered that Nigerian women are ready to support themselves. And the Nigerian men, for the first time, I see a lot of zeal in ensuring that women take over. So I became the Action Democratic Party candidate for the governorship election 2023 Benue State.
In 46 years of its existence, Niger State has its very first female governorship candidate, Khadija Abdullahi Iya of the All Progressives Grand Alliance, APGA. The development expert says beyond gender, her people yearn for growth, development which can only be provided by competence.
Niger State has a leadership crisis and is about time for a female touch, a motherly touch to come and quench the state of affairs.
A geographical representation of female candidates on the 2023 ballot indicates a lower outing for women in northern Nigeria as against the south. Professor Abubakar Kari of the Department of Political Science, University of Abuja, attributes the low number in the north to a myriad of factors.
There are equally cultural factors, particularly religion, which is being misinterpreted or interpreted to suit the designs of the male-dominated society.
As advocacies for more women representation in governance intensifies, one can only hope the outcome of the polls will smile at this gender. Dana Daniel Ziggy, Trust TV, Abuja.
You're watching News Hour on Trust TV. We'll be back shortly.
Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Welcome back. Let's now join Chiamaka Nwafo for business news.
The Ghana National Petroleum Authority has announced removal of fuel subsidy in the country. The removal of the subsidy is part of the country's implemented regulatory measures to ensure stability across its downstream sector. Chief Executive Officer of NPA, Abdul Hamid, said this during a presentation at the ongoing Africa Refiners and Distributors Week 2023 in Cape Town, South Africa. Hamid said the Ghanaian government, through the NPA, has also removed energy subsidies. He disclosed that the plans were implemented in response to the global oil and gas market volatility caused by the Russian-Ukraine war and energy transition-related policies. Hamid added that the NPA has also created a special fund to assist refineries in boosting their capacity to 50 barrels of oil in order to meet the country's growing demand. And finally, in stocks, the equity market on Wednesday closed on a bearish note as downtrend extended to 4 straight sessions. The All-Share Index dropped by 0.42% to settle at 55,490.20 points. Market capitalization declined by 0.42% to close at 30.229 trillion naira, shedding 127 billion naira. The market break closed negative as 11 equities appreciated in their share prices against 19 that declined in their share prices. An aggregate of 181 million units of shares was traded in 3,908 deals valued at 3.4 billion naira. And that's it on Business News. I am Chiamaka Nwafo.
Now away from Nigeria, more than 200 people are now confirmed dead in Malawi after Tropical Storm Freddy ripped through southern Africa for the second time in a month. Huge amounts of brown water have cascaded through neighborhoods, sweeping away homes. Malawi's commercial hub, Blantyre, has recorded most of the deaths, including dozens of children. Aid agencies are waiting or warning that the devastation will exacerbate a cholera outbreak in Malawi. The government has declared a state of disaster in 10 southern districts that have been hardest hit by the storm. Rescue workers are overwhelmed and are using shovels to try to find survivors buried in the mud. Let's now join Adeni Ajishafe for sports news.
Nigeria representative in the Southern Conference of the African Basketball League, Kwara Falcons, have suffered their second successive defeat in the tournament. Nigerian champions, despite starting on the front foot, lost heavily to the Rwanda Energy Group REG in the opening group game after the Bamako-based club claimed the first set 15-18. Falcons closed the gap to 5 points in second set, offering a 31-36 defeat. The Malia Cup created a huge gap in the third set with a resounding 49-64 win before wrapping up the game in the final set 74-78. And in table tennis, Africa #1 table tennis star Aruna Quadri says he's expecting a tough game when he faces Japan's Tomokazu Harimoto in the round of 16 of the WTT Singapore Smash. The Nigeria International defeated Francis Felix Lebrun to reach the round of 16. Aruna says although Harimoto is a good and very fast table tennis player, he's looking forward to a favorable outcome. And in football, Morocco have joined Spain and Portugal in a 3-way bid to hold 2030 FIFA World Cup. Ukraine, who were invaded by Russia in February 2022, had initially joined Spain and Portugal's bid. It is not clear what will happen to Ukraine's role after the announcement by Morocco at Tuesday's FIFA Congress. It has been reported there were concerns due to the ongoing war and governance issues at the Ukraine Football Association. Morocco caused a surprise at the 2022 World Cup as they became the first African side to reach the semi-finals. They lost to France in the last 4 before being beaten by Croatia in the third place playoff. Morocco's King Mohammed VI says Morocco will present a joint bid to hold the 2030 World Cup alongside Portugal and Spain in a letter read to the FIFA 73rd Congress in Kigali, Rwanda. The joint bid, which is unprecedented in football history, will bring together Africa and Europe, the northern and southern Mediterranean, and the African, Arab, and Euro-Mediterranean worlds. That's Sport News. I'm Adeni Ajishafe.
And with that, we've come to the end of News Hour on Trust TV. Don't forget to follow us across all our social media platforms. I'm Darshan Hussaina Usman. Thanks for watching.
From the Daily Trust News Center, this is the News Hour.